The Game of Wool, Britain's Best Knitter, is finally here, and those who are in the UK were able to tune in to the first episode of the programme last Sunday. The programme consists of 8 episodes, and in each episode, one of the contestants will be voted off or cast off, as they say it. I'm not that keen on that term in this context. In each episode, the contestants are going to have 2 tasks to complete. One is an individual task, and the other one a group task. Now, there has been a lot of criticism of the program, especially in the knitting community, where people did not feel that the program represented the knitters, the craft, the skill that goes into actual knitting. That there was a lot of focus on speed, as the contestants were given 12 hours for the individual project, which was a tank top knitted in Fair Isle knitting. The Fair Isle knitting itself wasn't really well represented because some of the knitting wasn't done in true Fair Isle. The program is presented by Tom Daly, a UK swimmer ex-diver who discovered the joy of knitting in 2020. So he's been knitting for a good 5 years already. And I've seen some of his jumpers that he's knitted, and they look pretty good for someone who's only been knitting for 5 years. In this video, I would like to share my thoughts on the program, not from the point of view of a knitter, but more from a general audience point of view, if I were a novice knitter or a potential knitter. The program is meant to have the same format as the Great British Bake Off. So you have your contestants, they have projects, and one of them gets voted off each week. I feel like that's not a very comparable and easily transferable format to the knitting competition, because unlike for the Bake Off program, where majority of the public are going to relate very easily to the program, to the tasks given, to the baking, to the items that have been created by the contestants, because let's face it, most of us can cook, we bake, we cook, and we like our food. Here, knitting is very niche. Not many people knit or can knit or want to knit. I think the structure of the program, the current structure of the program, the way it's kind of based on the first episode, I don't think it works. And the reason it doesn't work, in my opinion, is that very few people, only those who can knit, understand things like Fair Isle knitting, steeking, casting on, casting off, all the knitting jargon. They know what it is. They've done it. It makes sense to them. It won't make sense to the general public. Another thing that disappointed me in this program is that it started from a complex knitting technique, Fair Isle or stranded colorwork knitting technique. It's quite a skill, and it takes some time to practice and master. I feel like the first episode introduced too much knitting jargon, and threw the viewers as well as the contestants straight into the deep end, without preparing the viewers for all these techniques, or even explaining them properly. When the program was introduced, there's been a lot of talk that the aim of the program is to not only to showcase the best knitting skills, but also to popularize knitting to the wider public. I feel like from the first episode didn't achieve that. In my opinion, it would have been better if the first episode started off with hats, scarves, gloves, so starting off with explaining simpler concepts, so casting on, casting off, tension, wool choices, that kind of things. Maybe creating competition around those basic skills, and then progress into the more complex knitting techniques, so that the viewers could grow with the contestants and could gain better and deep understanding of what's actually going on. I felt that as a non-knitter, I would have lost interest and probably switch off quite pretty quickly. Apart from the contestants sharing their life stories with the viewer, the actual knitting process was not very informative. Particularly bothered me in this program was the time constraint on the knitting competition, and I completely understand that there has to be some time measure in these projects. However, I think that the guy who got voted off, called Gordon, what he was trying to achieve was quite interesting. He ran out of time, completely ran out of time, but I could tell that he's a very skilled and experienced knitter, and it was a shame to see that he wasn't given a chance to showcase his design. He was voted off basically on the fact that he not managed to complete his tank top. The outcome of a knitting in terms of design quality, quality of knitting, has no correlation to necessarily to the time spent on knitting the project. So it's not that the quicker you knit, the better your garment is gonna, the better your outcome is going to be. As actually, the more time you put into it, thinking about it, designing, maybe you need to have a few goes before you're comfortable and you're happy with what you're doing. Especially as in this case, the contestants had chunky yarn. I wish people were given a bit more time to complete the project so that we could see the final outcome and then maybe judge who gets voted off on the basis of the skill, the craft, what the tension is like. We'll measure it on the basis of craft, not on the time, and completing knitting as quickly as possible within those 12 hours. So today is Saturday, and tomorrow I'm still going to be tuning in tomorrow to watch the second episode. It's going to be the 80s theme. I'm guessing there's probably going to be the group task, and the individual task is going to be knitting for your dog or cat. So that possibly could be quite interesting. It still would be interesting to see what the knitters managed to achieve in the second episode. So it's tomorrow again on Channel 4 at 8 p.m. If you have watched the program, I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Please share your thoughts in the comments box below.